So I've been doing what I guess kind of has turned into a series now, where we go back in time and look at different catalogs or ads that maybe like EB Games or Best Buy or whoever has done, right? And you can see how things were, say, back in the mid-2000s or the late 90s when it comes to gaming and sort of going shopping at that time. Well, today, I wanted to look back on holiday 2001, which is when the GameCube and the Xbox were just coming out, and the PS2 had about a year on the market. And, well, it was certainly a different time, as I'm sure I've said many, many times here, but we'll go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Now, this is over on Hugues, I think it's Hugues Johnson, and they have a site where they upload a bunch of different scans. They do it really, really well. Like, it's very thorough. They'll upload all the pages from it, and it's actually in order and everything, so it makes it very easy to sort of set up here and just go through some of the pages, and it's high quality stuff. So I'll leave a link to their site down below where they have everything sorted out, and you can technically look through some of this for yourself, because I don't have every single page here. I have many of them, but then also some of the other years, even back to like the early 90s from what I saw. So maybe there'll be some others there we can explore in different videos. But you guys say you enjoy kind of seeing what things were like, I guess, in this case, 23 years ago, as this is EB, or Electronics Boutique, from November 2001. And you can see right off the bat, they have the GameCube and the Xbox front and center, as well as EverQuest. Again, big PC stuff happening there too. But, again, GameCube and Xbox, they had just come out here in November. Technically, if it's a November 2001 catalog, they would have created this like I guess the month before in October or so. Either way, that was the big gift for the holidays, technically. Neither of them outsold the PS2 still, but you could have saying a lot of retailers wanted to show the nice shiny new system, and it was the GameCube and the Xbox. We also have Metal Gear Solid 2 on the front here and Ace Combat 4. So let's see. We'll jump to the first page, which was, in this case, the original Xbox. All right, we have the big Duke controller, front and center, $300 system, which I think with inflation, I feel like this is like a 70% jump or something. So it was quite pricey if you look at it in today's money. Even again, $300. You look at it now, you're like, oh, that's great. A little different if you go all the way back to 2001. With inflation in mind. You also had to buy the DVD remote, which was unfortunate for Microsoft because, well, the PS2 just worked out of the box where you just use the controller. You didn't need this DVD plug-in, which was really annoying to have to get. You did have the advanced pack, which you can still find these online, and this apparently gave you just a better overall signal, and it also had like the port for audio, the optical port, it also separated that out as well. So people still get these and will even modify them so it uses component out as, again, it's seen as higher quality than even the official cable that Microsoft had at the time. So the Duke controller at $40. Yeah, there it is, front and center. Man, that is, it's a hated controller for a lot. Back then it definitely was. Now people have kind of come around on it a bit. I actually have a video I'm doing on just the Duke controller because it is such an interesting thing since Microsoft pivoted away from it so fast. But we also have the memory unit here. I don't know a lot of people who use the memory unit. It was mostly used to just transfer data between Xboxes since the system had like a 10 gigabyte hard drive built in, so you really never filled the thing up when it came to save data. See, we have some of the games here. $55. You know, I had to think about this. Although I guess back then, 2001, I wasn't exactly rolling around buying games constantly or anything like that. So pricing I wasn't as aware necessarily of the pricing back then. I knew that games were like $50, and if you can find it on sale, great. You might be able to scrape together some money to get the new title. But 55 was interesting. I don't remember this price point as much back then. Let me know in the comments if this was like a typical thing that you remember. I do remember Fusion Frenzy, and I remember that because it's a demo on Halo. Yeah. So if you go down to the bottom, you can actually play 2 or 3 mini games from Fusion Frenzy. We would occasionally do that while we're waiting for people to show up. When we had like the Halo land getting set up, we were just waiting at that point because our system and TV was set up. Let's pop in Fusion Frenzy here on the demo side and play some of that. And then we have Munch's Odyssey, which I kind of feel... Okay, so Halo, obviously, that was the big one. People would even say Project Gotham Racing or NFL Fever, sure. For some reason, Munch's Odyssey, that was the first time I saw an Xbox running and actually played it, was Munch's Odyssey. It was set up as a demo unit, I want to say at a Kmart, and I thought it was incredible looking. I mean, look, the visuals now very primitive. Man, back then it was crazy. It looked insane. So that one, for some reason, whenever I see this game, I always relate it to the original Xbox, even though it's like on a bunch of systems now, technically. Let's see, we had Silent Hill. Okay, no, we did have Silent Hill 2 right here, Restless Dreams, which is, that was one that really big on the PS2, and they did eventually obviously push here to the Xbox. And then I remember Obi-Wan, because that was the game where you'd have the right stick and it would control the lightsaber, and I'm sure it was cool back then. I remember seeing it on G4 a lot, where they did like the Cinematech episodes, and you would just see them playing it. And I was like big Star, like I was playing like the Jedi Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, and then we had like Jedi Outcast and stuff that was showing up. But it was still cool to see this kind of a game at least show up on the original Xbox. And then we did have third-party controllers here too, which it's funny because the Duke controller was, as I mentioned, it was hated on back then, mostly for the size. Some people did prefer the third-party controllers, which sounds crazy, but Mad Catz was, that was it for people back then. It sounds weird. But yeah, I mean, third-party controllers were rolling for the original Xbox. Let's see, we had the GameCube, the 5-inch monitor. I don't know what brand that is. Oh, it's into. So I was looking at this. I don't think I have this one specifically. It's that Interact. I think it's Interact. I don't have this one specifically, but I do have a screen, and the quality of these screens are terrible. They are so bad. It's like ghosting constantly, but the concept of having a screen attached to your system was mind-blowing back then, all right? Because now we're used to having portable PCs, handheld systems and stuff that can play, you know, these big 3D games. It was weird to not have the system hooked up to the living room TV and have your own personal little setup here. So terrible quality, but we didn't really care because it's such an incredible concept back then. And we have the GameCube here. So even these ones are $53. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's an EB thing. They didn't make a lot of money on new games. Maybe that was a way they could kind of get around that. It's like, look, you want this new game, where else are you going to go? You know, it's kind of what, there weren't digital games to compete with back then. But Luigi's Mansion, Wave Race, we have Wave Race Blue Storm, Pikmin, Super Smash Bros. Melee. So with the GameCube, it was interesting because it came out in November, and then a month later, actually like 3 weeks later, really, you saw Pikmin and Smash Bros. Melee and stuff come out. They came out in Japan earlier, like a month or two earlier, but they made the release in the US by like this much. They came out in the first week of December. So I remember when I got my GameCube, and the next game I went and bought was Smash Bros. Melee. So it makes sense that they would have that right next to it here. It was a legitimately impressive title. I know people say still like Luigi's Mansion, sure, even Pikmin, Wave Race, but like the amount of content in Smash Bros. Melee after coming from Super Smash Bros. On the N64, I mean, it's still impressive now. Then we have the controllers here at $35 each, and then the little memory card at $20. This looks like that's really small. It's like the 54 block guy. It's not going to hold much, but still $20. And we have some other games here. Dave Mirra, Freestyle BMX 2. I mean, come on, you got to get Rogue Leader. That's the move. Or I guess SSX Tricky. Yeah, like SSX Tricky was really cool looking back then. A little racing, $30 for a racing wheel. It looks terrible, but still, that's not bad. Look at this carrying case. Wow, we already had a handle, but this one looks serious. Some of them were pretty tough back then. They were like made out of full like hard plastic, so you could like chuck it down steps and it wouldn't get damaged. We wanted the PS2, still $300 by the way, a year later, and it went on to outsell the GameCube and the Xbox this holiday season handily, even though those systems were first launching. Memory card at $35. So this was almost. There was a point in time with the PS2, and I'm trying to remember if it was that first year or if it was the year or two after, where the memory cards were impossible to find, and they jumped heavily in price. I'm talking like 3 to 4 times the prices. So it was like this crazy like memory card drought. I don't know if it was because of just the the flash RAM or something inside of it, but it was very difficult to get. Look at that. It might be one of the cleanest DualShock 2 controllers you're going to see ever again. We have the remote, which you didn't need. And then the stand. Look, the vertical stand, $15. It's not quite 30 with inflation, but it's close. Sony's been pulling this for a while, guys. I'm telling you. This isn't a new thing for the PS5 stand. Oh, there's Ico at 55, Dark Cloud. Yeah, Gran Turismo 3. Man, these are the days kind of going through here and like circling them for your Christmas list and stuff and writing them down. I mean, you got to get Metal Gear Solid 2. You probably needed the strategy guide as well, because that was there were a lot of things that were, I would say, hidden, but like it was harder to find in this game and get like everything done. Man, look at that. Look at this holiday though. Silent Hill 2, Metal Gear Solid 2, Devil May Cry, Onimusha, Frogger now, but like that, man, the lineup was absurd. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3? That was it right there. To me, that was the game you needed. You get Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and like Metal Gear Solid 2. Yeah, you can throw Gran Turismo in there. I mean, that was like the casual like starter pack. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, I guess a Madden, Metal Gear Solid 2. PS2 was like unstoppable at this time too. Man, PS1 was still in full effect though. $100 for like the little PS1, right? The little guy, and then the screen at $130, a higher quality screen than what I was just talking about with the GameCube, by the way. You could get away with this one. Speakers are pretty loud too. I actually have one of these screens still somewhere, and it's not as good as screens we have now, obviously. Still very good. People, by the way, still use this. They'll buy this and they'll change the screen out with a better one, like a newer one. And just because the form factor is so good, it closes almost like a little laptop kind of, and it fits perfectly on this PS1. But you can see, I mean, they were trying to sell this thing with, we got the sports titles here, Siphon Filter 3, so many different color combinations for the controllers here. Same with the memory cards. I think we have the games here. We do. Yeah, look at that. Final Fantasy 9. Black Label, brand new, $45. Arc the Lad. Imagine going, I know these are still like $45. It's not like they're $10 or something, but still, you get these Black Label sealed Anthology Chronicles. Those still, I don't think, are that expensive. They've been reprinted a bunch of times. But like Dragon Warrior 7. E.T. I don't remember E.T. There were a lot of, I don't say shovelware, but there were a lot of movie tie-in games for the PS1. It was pretty common, just because you're printing it on, you're pressing it on the CDs. You're not doing a whole cartridge thing, so they were all over the place. We got some more here. Oh, look at that. X5, Legends 2, X4, 8, 6. But you buy any Mega Man game for the PlayStation, you get $5 off the second. You imagine getting a Black Label Mega Man Legends 2 sealed at $20? Even X4. X4 is good too, man. 8, man. I'd clean up right. Look at this. Okay, so you got $60, right? Gets you these 3, and take $55 those 3. That's a deal. Lego Island 2. I think I had the first Lego Island, so I even had it on my PC. I think that's really stretching it there. Having something like that on PC. I remember having Lego Island though. You like delivered a pizza. I think that was like the first thing you do in the game. I don't know why I remember that. Game Boy Advance. Remember, this was a big thing for Nintendo as well with their handheld, right? I mean, it's 2001. So the Game Boy Advance just outright were $100 each. They fit in perfectly at that price point. Kind of, it's not impulse buy territory. It's budget territory, though. We just talked about the pricing for some of those other systems at $300. The GameCube, $200. But still, this is like half the price there for the Game Boy Advance. All the different colors. I think I had Arctic White. I think that was the first Game Boy Advance I had, right there in the middle. But I know a lot of people had like the purple one, for example. Man, look at this. The Golden Sun sealed. See, the Game Boy Advance games are going to be worth more than the PS1 games. I think, obviously, long term, if you have it complete. Because those cardboard boxes just disintegrated. It was just over after 10 years or something. They barely hold together anymore. Advance Wars at 35. I picked this page because it shows how ridiculous things had to be to play your Game Boy Advance anywhere that wasn't convenient. we had just Shark Light Survival Set. Yes, it was. Look at this. Look at this monstrosity that we did. Oh man, the Game Boy Advance went through it. It's like you had to like build this thing up like the Bionic Man just to make it so you could play in the dark. So we had, I think it's like a link cable. We had the cover for it to protect it. You had the shield for the front of it, so if it gets dropped, it doesn't break. You had this like worm light arm that basically was like a lamp to put on it. Man, yeah, the Game Shark up here too. Look at that. Whoever had that was popular at school because they could just have Mews. They had a little Mew factory over there for Pokemon, just sending them all over the place. And then a few years later, we realized it was a mistake when our game decides to be corrupted. Here's some Pokemon stuff along with the Game Boy Color. So Nintendo still sold the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance same holiday. The Color was $70. Now, it's pretty obvious. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't just buy the Advance for $30 more. But I'm sure there were plenty of holidays where, yeah, you had like a lime green Game Boy Color under the tree next to, with Pokemon Crystal right here. They had a game pack. Look at this. You could get Pokemon Crystal, a lime green Game Boy Color, and it was $80. That's a pretty good deal, I think, for both of them being sealed and in the box. That's pretty good. You also have the Crystal strategy guide here, 15. Everyone I knew back then had at least one Pokemon strategy guide at home for just any one of them. But that was probably I feel like the most common series to get a strategy guide for was Pokemon. There's so much stuff to that game. And then look at this. Ages, seasons, 35 each. Hercules at 30. Okay. But like, obviously the big thing is you get Pokemon, you get the Zelda games. I mean, that's why. Wait, purchase Pokemon Crystal Bundle and get the guide for free. So you get the Crystal Guide, this whole pack right here for $80, and they give you the strategy guide. Okay, maybe I would buy that. Actually, I just said I'd buy the Game Boy Advance. Maybe I would get that. That might be the move right there at $80. The Nintendo 64 is still selling. Nintendo had a lot of systems on the market. Think about that. N64, right here, GameCube, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. They were rolling with 4 SKUs for hardware this year. And all the different colors, too, you had to accommodate for. That'd probably be a retail worker's nightmare, or wholesaler if you're trying to figure out what to stock and what not to. $100 for the N64. That's good. Oh, does this come with 2? Comes with 2? Comes with 2 controllers, I think, because there's another one up here. That's really good then. Mario Party 3. See, even though these are cartridges, they had a harder time to fall in price. $40 for Mario 64, even though it came with the system when it came out. That's still a pretty good deal. Again, cartridges, they don't really fall in price much. But, man, look at that. Sealed, inboxed. Mario Party 3, $50. Smash Brothers at $40. Look at that South Park down here for $12. It's like a first-person shooter, technically. Multiplayer game, 4-player split screen. And it was ridiculous, but it was definitely South Park. It was a lot of fun. The Dreamcast, they have no pricing here. All right, so I'll tell you why. I double-checked to make sure I wasn't imagining this. This would have been the holiday season where the Dreamcast was $50. Just outright. It had been marked all the way down to $50 right here. Brand new, boxed, the whole thing, right? And you then compare it to some of the games like Phantasy Star Online at $40. Like, the system basically costs as much as a new game almost, which is crazy to think about. But I absolutely would have picked up a couple of these if I could go back in time and do it right now. I mean, come on. Brand new in-the-box Dreamcast at $50. This was Sega's exit from the console market right here. Look at this. Jet Grind Radio. That's right. That's how we knew it. Jet Grind Radio. $10. Man. Those are the days. I also picked this out because for me, it's funny to see this. Like the video cards and the RAM memory. Look at this. 64 megabytes of DDR1. 133 megahertz. $5. That's after rebate, by the way. They still do that. They do this now. They did this back then. It's actually $15. You got to mail in the rebate, and they'll eventually send you like a $10 gift card. And it usually takes like 4 weeks to send you that. Same thing here with the 256 megabytes of RAM. DDR1 again, $50. That's how it was back then. If you had a gigabyte of RAM, you were incredible back then. It was insane. Like, most people had some weird configuration. Some had like 512. Some people did the thing where they put like a 512 and a 256 in there, and it was like 768 for some reason. It was so weird. I did that though, so there you go. There's the Radeon 7500, the 8500, like $200, $300. Still way off, by the way, for our video cards now, where even if you do inflation, we're probably going to see a 5090 that's $2,000 this year, or next year, I should say, 2025. GeForce 2 MX, $100. This is the GeForce 2. We were starting to work up, so I eventually got the, I think the first true video card that I got for me, not for like the family or anything, was the FX 5200. I was still like a year or two off from this, right? But I remember that card was awesome, and it struggled in a lot of games, but it was still really cool to have my own setup, my own custom build and video card. But still, 100, 150 bucks. Video cards, I mean, technically now looking back on it, kind of cheap. There are some other ones here. We have this is the GeForce 3 Ti 500 350. There's the GeForce 2 MX 400 at $100. You also have your sound card. Yep, that's how, the old speakers. And I picked this one out too because this is going to hurt all the Pokemon fans out there who are collecting the cards. Look at this. Pokemon Neo Revelation, $3.29. Just start loading up a shopping cart with them. I looked up how much these booster packs are worth now, especially this one right here with, what's that, Entei on the front. It's a lot. So inflation does not account for that here, unfortunately. But $3.29, I feel like if you go back in time right now, you'd clear out whatever they had and you'd ask if they had more in the back room. But this was EB Electronics Boutique, 2001. There's still a bunch of other pages I didn't go over here. So again, I'll leave a link to this site that has all the scans down below in the description if you'd like to look through it a bit more yourself. And maybe if you guys enjoy it, let me know in the comments, and I can pick out a few other ones and just kind of talk about it as we go through, since I do think it is fun to look back on sort of the old days. Yes, a lot of it absolutely is nostalgia. It's just kind of fun to see how far the gaming industry's come, or even looking back then, sort of the differences and pricing and what we were excited for at different moments in time, because I think a lot of it just blends together for the entire generation, and we kind of forget these little slices throughout, right, for each system and generation. But let me know what you guys thought about this one down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.